In exactly 36 seconds, Jasmine Crockett slammed a sealed envelope onto the desk, hard enough to silence a room full of power. Inside, a DNA test, a child's name, and the bloodline of a sitting president. Gasps echoed. Cameras zoomed. Trump's smirk cracked live in front of 38 million Americans. What truth was so explosive? It made the most powerful man in the world look like he had seen a ghost. The red tally light blinked once, then locked solid. Live. Capitol Hill's Oversight Committee chamber fell into that eerie silence only television brings, the kind where every shuffle, every breath becomes a broadcast. The marble walls echoed with anticipation. A dozen camera rails glided like predators around the room, hunting close-ups. On one side, aides flipping through color-coded briefings. On the other, reporters texting like their fingers were on fire. But all eyes shifted when she walked in. Jasmine Crockett stepped into the room, not as a congresswoman, but as a storm. Her usual fire was cloaked in something tighter today, still cold, intentional. Her lips did not move, her eyes did not scan the room. She walked past the chaos without acknowledging it, leather heels striking the floor like a countdown clock in her left hand. A manila envelope sealed, creased at the corners. In her right, a battered black notebook with a single word scribbled on the front. Lucia. On the opposite side, Donald J. Trump sat already in place, flanked by Secret Service, legal counsel, and a carefully curated media team that adjusted every angle of his smirk. He wore a deep navy suit and a red tie that glared like a warning flare under the studio lighting. He looked comfortable, too comfortable, like a man who thought this hearing would be just another stage and Jasmine Crockett just another background actor. The committee chairman cleared his throat. This oversight session will focus on the misuse of humanitarian funds designated for migrant families detained at the southern border. The words were formal, neutral, rehearsed, but everyone in the room knew the real headline. Where did the missing $6.7 million in aid money go, and who signed the authorization? Jasmine still had not spoken, but her fingers tapped twice on the sealed envelope before placing it gently beside her microphone. She did not look at it. She did not need to. She had memorized every word inside, every digit of the lab result, every line of the court-stamped affidavit. She had lived with this secret for 3 weeks, and in the next 19 minutes it would no longer be secret. President Trump adjusted his posture, leaned forward slightly, and whispered something to his aide. The aide chuckled a low snicker. Jasmine heard it. She did not blink. She simply opened her notebook, flipped past pages of questions, and landed on a single dog-eared photo. Black and white, grainy, time-stamped. She slid it under her notes, half-visible, half-shadowed. Camera one pan to her face, camera two zoomed in on Trump's hands, fidgeting for the first time. A junior congressman leaned toward Jasmine. "You sure about this?" he whispered. Her only response a steady exhale, the kind that came before a courtroom objection or a verdict. The chairman looked up. "Representative Crockett, your time begins now." She adjusted the microphone slowly, her eyes still locked on the envelope. Not yet. The truth would land, but not in the first blow. It had to be surgical, precise, measured. She leaned in. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," her voice calm, deceptively calm. What was inside that envelope would make a president wish. The cameras had never rolled. Jasmine had not even reached her second question. When it came, Trump leaned forward, adjusted his mic, and fired off the line like he had been waiting for it all morning. "People like her do not understand family values." Laughter rippled through the Republican side of the chamber like a match caught dry grass. A few aides chuckled. One congressman actually clapped, and for a split second, it felt like the room tilted in Trump's favor. The smirk on his face stretched wider, like he had landed a punch. Jasmine did not flinch. She did not raise her voice, did not blink, just stared straight ahead, letting the echo of his words bounce off the marble walls and settle like ash. Her fingers drummed once against the envelope, then stopped outside the camera's view under the polished oak of her desk. Her thumb grazed the folded flap of that manila envelope. The truth was inches from daylight, but not yet. In her mind, the noise faded, the laughter blurred, and she was no longer in D.C. She was back in that quiet church basement in San Antonio just 3 weeks ago. The air was thick with incense. A rosary hung on a nail in the wall, and a cross. From her sat Maria Alvarez, eyes rimmed red, hands trembling as she slid the envelope across the table. "I kept it hidden for years," Maria said softly, her accent cracked by guilt. "I was scared. He was powerful. I was invisible." Jasmine took the envelope and opened it. A DNA test notarized. A paternity matched 99.98% at the top. The name Lucia Maria Alvarez. Age 11. Father Donald J. Trump. Jasmine did not speak for nearly a minute. Then, with her hand over Maria's, she said the only thing that mattered, "I will make them see her back in the hearing room." Jasmine shifted in her chair. The audience could not see it, but her left hand was on the envelope again. She slid a finger under the flap slowly, quietly. The seal cracked just slightly. She could feel the edge of the DNA report, the corner of the photo. The handwritten letter folded once, then twice, scrawled in purple ink. Her heart pounded, her fingers paused. She looked up. Trump was sipping water, smug somewhere. In the back row, a Fox News commentator scribbled a headline, "Crockett cracks." Jasmine closed the envelope. Not yet. She had 7 minutes left. And 38 million people watching. The weight in the room shifted again, this time toward her. Every second she stayed calm, made Trump's laughter look smaller. Every moment of her silence felt louder than his words. She glanced once at the chairman, then back to the man who called her unfit to understand family, the same man whose name appeared in bold at the top of the paternity test. She smiled, not big, just enough to say, "I know something you do not." Yet she straightened the papers on her desk, cleared her throat. Then she began her next question, not about Lucia, not yet, but about 6.7 million in missing aid money that never reached the migrant shelters. Because sometimes justice does not arrive as an explosion. Sometimes it walks in on soft steps and waits for the perfect silence. She had 7 minutes left, and a nation watching. Jasmine did not raise her voice. She did not need to, just a subtle lean toward the mic, her fingers resting gently on the edge of the envelope like she was handling something sacred or radioactive. The room responded with stillness. Even the camera operators slowed their hands, like they knew something irreversible was about to unfold. Her voice came low and wavering. "I was not planning to do this today, but you brought up family." That word family hung in the air like smoke, the same word Trump had used moments earlier to diminish her. Now it came back like a loaded bullet, redirected. She reached down and placed the envelope on the witness desk, flat, perfectly centered. The lighting hit it just right, just enough to make the yellow edges glow beneath her fingertips. It looked harmless, ordinary, but everyone in the room could feel its weight, like it was ticking. Trump cocked his head, narrowed his eyes. His smirk slipped a fraction, and one of his aides leaned in, nervously whispering something just off. "Mick." He waved the aide away and crossed his arms. Jasmine did not look at him. She opened her black notebook, turned past scribbled policy notes, and pulled out a single white sheet. She did not read from it immediately. She just held it between her fingers, letting the silence bloom until the tension wrapped around everyone's ribs. Then softly, "Lucia Alvarez, 11 years old, no father until this DNA test." There was no sound at first, just a stillness so sharp it hurt. Then a single involuntary gasp from the gallery, followed by a shuffle of papers. Someone dropped a pen. A cough tried to cover the tension, but it failed. Trump pushed forward, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. "This is ridiculous. That is not relevant to this hearing. This is fake." His voice rose, but his authority cracked around the edges. He glanced to the chairman like he expected a rescue. Jasmine did not even glance his way. "Test performed by 2 separate labs, filed under seal for the safety of the child." Now unsealed, her fingers tapped the envelope. Once it echoed, the chairman fidgeted. "Congresswoman, please stay on topic." "I am on topic," she interrupted firmly, but still composed. "The topic is truth, and this child deserves it." She reached into her folder again and removed a second document. She did not raise it, she did not show it. She simply laid it beside the envelope, methodical, unshaken. Her breath was steady. Her voice did not waver. Trump stood fully now, pointing. "This is a political hit job. It is disgusting." "She is not politics," Jasmine said, voice cutting through his like a blade through cloth. "She is a girl, a citizen, a name he refuses to say." Gasps again audible now. One congresswoman covered her mouth. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Even CSPN's live caption feed seemed to pause mid-sentence. Unsure of what to type, Jasmine reached for a final item, a photograph. She did not lift it. She did not hold it up for show. She just placed it gently face down on top of the envelope. She looked at it, she waited, and then she looked back up, her eyes scanning the room. Not asking for permission, not looking for sympathy, just stating the truth that had been buried too long. "What would America do?" she asked quietly when it saw what he left behind. For a long second the photograph sat on the desk, face down, silent, like a loaded secret waiting to be drawn. Jasmine did not touch it, not yet. Instead she picked up the envelope again, slid her finger under the flap, and pulled out a crisp sheet of paper, white, stamped, undeniable. She did not wave it around. She did not grandstand. She just held it up level with her shoulder, letting the camera zoom in naturally. The seal from the federal court gleamed under the lights. The room went breathless. "This," she said, "is a verified DNA test, witnessed, notarized, confirmed by 2 independent labs." Then she read the results. Subject A, Donald John Trump. Subject B, Lucia Maria Alvarez. Paternity probability 99.98%. Gasps exploded like shrapnel. The temperature in the chamber dropped. Even the marble floors seemed to hold their breath. Aides dropped their pens. Journalists lunged toward their phones somewhere in the media pit. A Fox News producer cursed under his breath. CNN's red ticker stuttered. Split screens. Activated Twitter feeds surged, and across the country 38 million Americans leaned forward at the same time. Jasmine did not blink. This child is not a rumor. She is not a footnote. She is not a headline. She is a living person with rights on screen. Trump clenched his jaw so hard the veins in his neck flared. One hand balled into a fist on the desk. His team scrambled. A young aide rushed to whisper in his ear, but he brushed him off like a fly. He still had not said a word. Jasmine placed the DNA test flat on the table right next to the photo still face down and adjusted her mic. This is not showmanship, it is accountability. She said it is about accountability, about a man in power leaving a child behind. While preaching to this nation about values, she paused. Let it sit. Then he can say this is fake. He can call it a stunt, but science does not vote red or blue. It just reveals the audience behind her. Did not move. One reporter slowly removed her glasses. Stunned, another simply mouthed, "Oh my God," into their camera. On split screen the world saw two faces: Jasmine Crockett, calm, resolute, immovable, and Trump, rigid, jaw-locked, sweat rising at his temple. The image was damning, not because it was loud, but because it was still. The chairman attempted to interject. "Congresswoman Crockett, perhaps we should refocus on the committee's original objective." She snapped. "The subject is the abuse of humanitarian funding. And what act is more devoid of humanity than leaving your own child trapped in a detention center?" The room fell silent. More sharply than a scream, she touched the photo. Once it remained face down, untouched, waiting like a vow. Mr. Trump redirected $6.7 million allocated for migrant support, while one of those migrants, his biological daughter, was held in a bare cell without nourishment for a day and a half. That is not only unethical, it is stained with blood. A deep vibration moved through the hall. It was not sound, but pure feeling, tightly sealed, bubbling. Trump leaned to the microphone. "You lack the authority." But Jasmine lifted her hand, palm facing out. "I do," she whispered, "because she is not an abstraction. She is a child who mirrors his features, who has waited over a decade to be acknowledged." She turned not to the chairman, not to journalists, but to the nation, America. "And I have not yet shown you the worst." She moved toward the photo, but Jasmine had more than evidence. She had weight. She remained silent, words no longer necessary. Her hand slid beneath her files and brought out a tiny remote no bigger than her hand. The screens flickered, then darkened for a heartbeat. The room dimmed. Then the footage began. No soundtrack, no cutaways, just a woman seated in a metal chair. Her shirt faded blue, her necklace a silver cross hanging heavy. Her name appeared in plain white letters: Maria Alvarez. Her gaze locked with the camera, her eyes swollen, not wet. Her voice faltered, but never fell. "I was 19 when I met him," she said. "I was working at Mar-a-Lago, scrubbing sheets, folding towels, serving drinks with names I couldn't pronounce." Gasps filled the space. Bodies shifted, some uneasy, others leaning closer. "I asked for nothing. I was undocumented, unseen, just how he preferred it." She clasped her hands. Jasmine stayed frozen, eyes on the image. "I told him I was expecting." He looked at me and said, "Vanish." Understood. Maria inhaled, then reconnected with the camera. "I did vanish. I fled. I changed identities. I raised Lucia alone with dual jobs and a single prayer that she would never feel unwanted." Several reporters brushed away tears. A Republican representative shook his head. "I filed no suit, contacted no press. I feared him, feared his reach, feared his labels." She lowered her eyes, hands locked tight, then looked up. A new strength surfaced. "But Lucia will not vanish, not now." The screen turned black again. No music, no dissolve, just hush. Jasmine did not move, hands pressed flat. The stillness was overwhelming, louder than any cry. Trump stayed mute, his hands clenched. Legal aid stunned, not due to surprise, but from how genuine it all felt. Jasmine faced the room. Not lawmakers, not cameras, but those watching her. Words almost hushed. "You heard her, you saw her. You know she spoke truth." She turned back to Trump. "You told Maria to disappear, but you cannot delete their child." A pause, then another. She pressed the remote again. A fresh video loaded, gentler. A drawing made with purple crayon appeared. A sun, a heart, two figures joined by hands. A voice followed, light, unsure, but fearless. "Hi, my name is Lucia. I think my dad is on TV. I don't know if he remembers me, but I hope he does." The room cracked open. The next voice was not a mother's. It was a child's. The display went black, but the air buzzed. A small voice echoed, soft, but louder than any shout. A call recorded on a borrowed phone. "Dear Dad," Lucia said, gently cautious, like the world might hear. "I hope one day you'll see me. Mama says I look like you." Silence clung. Jasmine stood, her hands folded, head lowered, not in defeat, but in honor, the kind of stillness that makes room for grief. Lucia continued with a slight tremble, "I'm in 5th grade. My favorite color is purple. I like to draw dogs and funny hair people. I once drew you, but messed up. The tie's soft laugh became a cough. A chair shifted. The chairman readjusted his glasses, but interrupted nothing. I don't know why you avoid Mama, Lucia added slower, but I hope you're okay. I'm okay except when I'm not. Trump twitched jaw. Tight fingers tapped once then stopped. He reached forward. This is staged. Disgusting, Mr. President. The chairman's voice cut in firm. You are not acknowledged. Lucia's words flowed untouched by tension. Last week I dreamed you gave me a cupcake with red, white, and blue sprinkles. Mama said maybe that means you still think of me. The sound faltered then returned. I just want to know how your voice sounds, love. Lucia. Silence returned, this time weighted, not empty. Jasmine raised her head, face unreadable. When she spoke, the words landed hard. This girl waited 11 years. Can the president spare 11 seconds to meet her eyes? She picked up the photo, the same one hidden all hearing long. She flipped it face up, placed it for all to see. Cameras, Congress, country. The image was undeniable. Trump at a gala cradling an infant in one arm. A shimmered backdrop, a name badge. Lucia's stare from that moment pierced the present. Gasps erupted. Reporters stood, hands over mouths. Trump froze. Jaw muscles clenched. No reply. Jasmine stared down at the picture, and the world witnessed what he abandoned. But what else had she found? Even the White House failed to anticipate. The photo rested like a ticking charge, silent, potent. Jasmine let it breathe, its gravity filling the room like judgment. Then slowly she turned it for the cameras. It was grainy, but unmistakable. Trump in formal wear, holding a baby in white, his palm cupping her head like an accessory. The Mar-a-Lago backdrop dripping in gold. Gasps again. Reporters leaned, producers scrambled. Jasmine remained firm. This image, she stated, was taken February 11, 2012 at the Hearts for Hope event at Mar-a-Lago. She held up another paper, color printed, court stamped. This is the schedule from that night. Then another sheet. Here is President Trump's calendar confirming he was present from 6:30 to 9:45. Trump shifted face, twitching. His lawyer jumped, adjusting his tie. Objection. That photo lacks authentication. Reckless slander. Live. Jasmine did not react, already lifting a third document. Objection overruled, she said calmly, not waiting for leadership. Murmurs spread. Her voice was not dramatic, it was clinical. She raised a flash drive. This device holds original metadata, geotag, time-stamped, reviewed by 3 forensic experts from the House Oversight Tech team. She slid it forward. Verify it if you must. It confirms what we all know. The attorney opened his mouth. Jasmine sliced. And if the president disputes the image, he may testify under oath. Until then, let the facts speak louder than his defense. Trump gripped the microphone, unmoving, his photo now on the screen behind Jasmine. Not a leader, not a parent, simply exposed. Silence grew heavy, thick. Jasmine leaned slightly, voice lowered. This is more than a picture. It proves this child is real. Maria spoke truth. The man who claims to champion family once held his daughter only to erase her. She stepped back, the photo glowing on the table, its reflection everywhere. Reporters sent it, viral anchors changed scripts. Americans leaned closer. Jasmine was not done. She lifted her gaze to the committee, her voice gentler but fuller. I am not alone, she said, turning to the side entrance. Someone had waited 12 years to speak. The door clicked open. All heads turned. Jasmine remained silent. Her eyes tracked a figure, modest, brown coat, white hair, sensible steps. She moved like someone accustomed to cold halls. Clara Esteban, retired nurse, former maternity staff, Palm Beach, and today the witness. None expected. She reached the microphone, her voice aged but unwavering. My name is Clara Esteban, registered nurse for 32 years. In 2012, I assisted in delivering a baby girl at Palmetto Care Clinic. Her mother was Maria Alvarez. She looked once at Trump. He remained still, but tense. Clara spoke again. Usually I am bound to silence, but Maria signed permission. She wants the truth. Her fingers shook, but her words did not. The mother came alone that night. Limited English, afraid, kept asking if the father would show. Another paused. Then she exhaled. About 30 minutes after the baby was born, a man entered through the rear hallway. No security, no announcement, just a heavy coat, baseball cap, and one very recognizable face. The room went still. Trump didn't move, his jaw clenched. I was in the nursery station when I saw him. He didn't speak much. He held the child for all of 20 seconds. Then he placed a gift bag beside the crib. Inside was a plush elephant and a small envelope. She reached into her purse. I kept this. A collective inhale surged through the room. Clara held up a photograph, aged, yellowed at the edges. Inside it, a small note written in gold script, for my little Lucia. I remember asking, should I write the father's name on the certificate? He shook his head, told me, don't bother, this never happened. She looked down for a second. She swallowed hard. I didn't say a word, not that night, not for 12 years, because I was afraid of what he could do, of what people would say. But today she turned to Jasmine. Today, I'm not afraid anymore. She faced the committee, her final words dropped like a gavel. I kept quiet until today because truth has a birth date. To the room burst into whispers. Reporters scrambled. One aide knocked over his water glass. A camera light flared. White-hot Trump sat frozen, color drained from his face, his hands flexed on the desk, but no words came, not even denial. Jasmine stood beside Clara, now still silent, still steady. She placed the photograph Clara brought down next to the DNA test. 3 documents, 3 stories, 1 truth. Then she looked up, her voice calm as ever. The evidence has spoken, the witness has spoken. She turned toward the chairman. And now so will I. With witnesses stacked and silence broken, Jasmine made her final move. The lights hadn't changed, the cameras were still rolling, but the energy in the chamber shifted like the air had thickened. Jasmine didn't speak right away. She reached beneath her binder and lifted something so small, so unassuming it took a moment for people to understand what they were seeing. It wasn't a document, not a photo, not even a printed record. It was a cloth bracelet, tattered, stained, child-sized, faded pink, frayed at the seams. The kind you'd get in a care package if the word care meant nothing. And across the center, still visible through the grime and blood, Trump 2020 America First. A hush swept across the room. Like a curtain falling, Jasmine held it up by 2 fingers, her hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but fury. Held still, the bracelet didn't need a speech, it told its own story. But Jasmine gave it a voice anyway. This was Lucius, she said, her voice calm but raw at the edges. Found on her wrist when she was detained last year in McAllen, Texas. Her ID tag had snapped. This is what they replaced it with. She looked down at it, then back up, eyes sharp, voice rising just enough. She had a fever, a cut on her left arm. From a fence post she asked for help. They gave her bottled water and left her on a cot for 2 days. No insulin, no medical file, just this. Her fingers tightened around the cloth. She bled through it. By the second night, gasps again, this time deeper, sadder, angrier. A woman in the back wiped her cheek. One reporter simply shook his head, stunned. Jasmine continued. She bled, she said slowly, and they wrapped her in a campaign slogan. She set the bracelet gently on the table beside the DNA report, beside the photo, beside the gift card. A line was forming, a trail, a truth too ugly to deny. Trump's posture shifted. He leaned back, jaw tight, arms folded, but even the cameras caught at the pail in his knuckles, the tension rising under that presidential mask. Jasmine let the silence stretch, not to perform, but to let it land, let it hurt. This isn't about left or right anymore, she said. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. Her voice dropped, eyes never leaving the lens. It's about a child, a girl who bled in silence while her father told the world he cared about American families. 1 beat passed, then another. No one interrupted, and then Jasmine asked what no one in the room could answer. So what does a president do when his daughter is the headline? The bracelet sat on the table like it was still bleeding. Trump hadn't looked at it, not directly, but the weight of it was clear in the way his knuckles whitened around the microphone. His chest rose and fell faster. His eyes darted to his lawyer, then to Jasmine, then back to the cameras, and then he exploded. This is a disgrace, he shouted, voice echoing off the chamber walls. A disgrace to this committee, to this institution, to the presidency itself. He shoved his chair back and stood so abruptly. The microphone wobbled. She's lying. This is a witch hunt, a complete fabrication, fabricated by a woman who doesn't even understand what it means to be an American. The room jolted. A ripple of gasps and murmurs broke through the crowd, like wind slamming into a field of dry leaves. Jasmine remained seated, still, hands folded in front of her. Not a twitch of muscle moved on her face. Trump jabbed a finger across the table at her. You don't get to question me. You don't get to bring up my family, my name, and pretend you're some sort of hero. This is political theater, and you, he pointed harder. You are not the main act. Still, Jasmine didn't move. She waited for the shouting to stop, then she leaned in, barely above a whisper, but the mic caught every syllable. The truth won't be muted just because it's inconvenient. That line cut deeper than any insult, because it wasn't loud, it wasn't aggressive, it was calm and deadly, and that's what made it impossible to argue with. Trump's team scrambled. One lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently in his ear. Another flipped through folders, searching for any legal clause they could weaponize. Across the room, network producers paced behind camera rails, mouthing orders. But no one cut away. CNN kept the feed running. MSNBC stayed live. Even Fox froze the screen and let it roll, unscripted, unfiltered, and undeniable in the chaos. Jasmine stood, finally, slow, deliberate, like she was stepping into a courtroom shed already won. You cradled her once, then erased her like a typo. She said you kissed her forehead, you gave her a plush elephant, and told the nurse, "Don't bother writing down my name." Her voice rose, not in volume but in certainty. And now the child has a name, a face, a voice, and you can't bury that with press releases. or pressuring this committee. Trump tried to interrupt again. You're done. This is slander. No, Jasmine said sharply. You're done. This isn't about winning a hearing. This is about whether or not you are the man you say you are to this nation. The room quieted again, this time not from shock, but from something colder, anticipation. Then behind the rows of aides and lawmakers the rear door opened. No announcement, no introduction, just the soft click of leather shoes and the calm presence of a man stepping forward. Gray suit, thin frame, aged but alert. Jasmine noticed him immediately. Her eyes didn't widen, but her breath caught just enough to change the rhythm. The man carried a leather folder tucked beneath one arm. His face was serious, almost haunted. And what he carried would change everything, because someone unexpected had just arrived to twist the knife even deeper. The man in the gray suit hadn't even sat down yet when a reporter in the back of the chamber received a ping. One buzz, then two, then a third. Phones lit up like wildfire. Journalists leaned over to confirm what they were seeing, and then came the murmur, quiet, sharp, like static, building behind closed lips. The reporter stood trembling slightly and held up his phone. Mr. Chairman, he said, his voice dry, we've just confirmed a leaked message from the First Lady. The room froze. No one interrupted, not even Trump. The reporter read, slow and deliberate, every syllable like a falling match. I told him this would come back. Melania. Trump text to aide, time stamped 3:42 a.m. Gasps followed instantly, not because it was loud, but because it wasn't a denial, it wasn't outrage. It was inevitability, a quiet confession whispered in the dark. Trump's face drained of color. He turned toward his staff. No answers came, just blank stares and shaking heads. Melania didn't tweet, didn't issue a statement, but she didn't push back either. Her silence filled the chamber like thunder without sound. Jasmine took a breath, then pressed play on a second recording, this one older, muffled slightly, but clear enough to land like a hammer. A man's voice, cool, corporate, detached. Look, Maria, we just want to help you move on. We're prepared to offer $130,000. No admission of anything you'll sign, then no press, no trouble, and no more calls. The room tensed. Jasmine looked at the committee. This was 2013. The caller was Robert Blaine, former legal consultant for the Trump Organization. Maria kept this voicemail for 11 years. She paused, let the weight sink in. She didn't want the money. She wanted her daughter to know where she came from. Trump slammed his hand on the table. That call is fake. That's not the chairman interrupted, gavel striking. Once, Mr. President, you will remain silent unless recognized. He sat back fuming. His legal team huddled tighter, frantic eyes on the exits, eyes on the press row. But it was too late, because outside the chamber the nation was already on fire. Within minutes, hashtags exploded. Lucia Trump, Melania, new bloodlines silenced. News outlets dropped their schedules. Talk shows cut to live feeds. Facebook filled with side-by-side photos of Trump and the girl he never claimed. Millions watched, millions reacted. But the chamber was still. Jasmine stood firm, voice unwavering. The world knows now every truth, every cover-up, every name paid to disappear. She turned slowly, faced the camera, not with anger, but with clarity. Lucia never asked for fame. She never asked for headlines. All she ever wanted was to be seen. Then she let the silence speak again. The world now knew, but what would America choose to believe? The hearing hadn't ended, but the world outside the chamber had already detonated. Within minutes of Jasmine dropping the bracelet, and the voicemail, hashtags surged like a tidal wave. Lucia Trump, DNA on the Hill, justice for Lucia. What started as whispers turned into a digital roar. By noon, every major platform was drowning in it. TikTok clips of the moment Jasmine flipped the photo hit 1 million views. In under an hour, a slowed-down version of Lucia's voice, I hope you see me, was set to piano music and posted by activists, teachers, even veterans. One tweet simply said, I voted for him twice. I won't do it again. Outside Capitol Hill, people gathered, first in quiet circles, then in thousands. Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, then Dallas, then Chicago. Homemade signs rose in the air like flags. She's not invisible. DNA doesn't lie. We believe Lucia. Black advocacy groups called it a modern-day reckoning. Latino organizations rallied behind Jasmine, calling her the voice of every forgotten child. Immigration coalitions released statements declaring this hearing a historic inflection point in America's moral conscience. Someone waited, then breathed. About 30 minutes after the child arrived, a figure appeared from the back hallway. No guards, no notice, only a large coat, a cap, and a face no one could forget. Silence settled. Trump stayed still, jaw-locked. I stood by the nursery, saw him arrive, said little, cradled the infant for mere moments, placed a gift beside the crib. It held a stuffed elephant and an envelope. She reached into her purse, said, I kept this. Breath caught across the room. Clara raised a photo, edges worn, inside a message written in gold, for my little Lucia D. I remember asking, should I include the father's name? He said no, told me forget it, said this never happened. She lowered her gaze, swallowed. Didn't speak that night, not for over a decade. Fear held me hostage. Fear of his power, fear of people. She turned to Jasmine, said, but not today. She addressed the committee and ended with, I stayed silent until now. Because truth has its own birthday, the chamber murmured. Journalists scattered, one assistant spilled his drink. Camera lights flared. Trump sat stunned, color fading, hands tensing without words. Not even denial. Jasmine now stood beside Clara, both quiet, both composed. She laid the picture beside the DNA test, 3 papers, 3 pots, 1 reality. Then she raised her eyes, voice steady. The facts have spoken, the witness has too. She looked to the chairman and said, now it's my turn. With testimony stacked and silence broken, Jasmine acted light, remained. Cameras live, but the mood changed heavy. Like storm clouds, Jasmine said nothing at first, then from under her binder, she drew a simple thing so ordinary it took time to understand. Not paper, not a snapshot, not data, but a cloth bracelet, worn dirty, child-sized, pink, frayed like something from a shelter, if shelter meant nothing, and across the band, barely visible under grime and blood, it read Trump 2020, America First. The room hushed like a curtain fell. Jasmine lifted it with 2 fingers, her hand shaking, not from fear but a frozen storm. The bracelet required no speech, but she gave it one. This was Lucia's, she said, voice calm but rough. They found it on her wrist during detention in McAllen, Texas. Her tag had snapped. They replaced it with this. She was sick, had a wound from a fence, asked for care. They gave bottled water, left her on a cot for 2 days. No insulin, no charts, only this. Her blood soaked through it by the second night. The air gasps after sat her angrier. A woman wiped tears. One reporter just shook his head. Jasmine said again she bled, and they wrapped her in a campaign slogan. She placed it down near the DNA result, near the photo, near the card. A pattern emerged, a path to dark, to dismiss. Trump leaned back, fists tight, but the cameras caught the whitened knuckles, the storm behind his mask. Jasmine let quiet speak, not for drama, but for impact. To let it burn, she said. This is no longer left versus right, not blue versus red. Eyes locked with the lens, she added, this is about a child who suffered in silence while her father claimed to defend American homes. The pause stretched, no one interrupted. Then Jasmine asked what no one dared. What does a president do when his daughter becomes the headline? The bracelet stayed still, like it still bled. Trump avoided its gaze, but his hands betrayed the weight. His breath quickened, his eyes flicked from lawyer to Jasmine, then to the lens. And then he broke. This is outrageous, he yelled, voice booming, a disgrace to this forum, to this role. He shoved back his seat, stood hard enough to shake the mic. She lies. This is fiction created by a woman who knows nothing of being American. The chamber rattled, gasps, whispers like wind through dry grass. Jasmine didn't flinch, stayed calm, hands resting, no muscles moved. Trump pointed, you can't judge me, can't drag my family, pretend you're noble. This is all a show, and you, he pointed again, are not the star. Jasmine stayed still, waited for quiet, then leaned forward, voice low but clear. The truth won't be silenced just because it's hard. That struck deeper than any shout, because it was still and sharp. His team scrambled, one whispered, another flipped folders. Producers in the back paced, whispered commands, but no channel. Cut away. CNN continued. MSNBC stayed. Fox froze the feed, let it roll. Jasmine rose, slow with purpose, like entering a court she already won. You once held her, then erased her, kissed her head, gave her a toy, told the nurse to leave your name blank. Her voice didn't rise, but it rang clear, and now she has a name, a face, a voice. And you can't hide her with releases or pressure. Trump tried again, said you're done, this is slander. No, Jasmine said firm, you're done. This is not about winning, this is about who you are, or pretend to be. The silence returned, not with shock, but tension. Then from the back the door opened, no intro, no words, just soft steps. A presence entering, gray suit, thin frame, older, alert. Jasmine saw him, her breath caught. The man held a folder, his look serious, shadowed what he brought would alter everything. Before he sat, a reporter's phone buzzed, then again. Then again, lights glowed. Journalists leaned, checked their screens. A murmur rose, soft, electric. Then the reporter stood trembling and said, Mr. Chairman, we have a message confirmed from the First Lady. The chamber stilled, even Trump paused. The reporter read slow, each word heavy. I told him this would come back. Melania. Trump message to aide marked 3:42 a.m. Gasps followed, not loud but final, not denial, but truth whispered from shadows. Trump paled, turned to staff, no response, just stares. Melania didn't tweet, didn't deny, but didn't defend either. Her silence louder than sound. Jasmine inhaled, pressed play again. Another tape, older, muffled, but clear enough. A man's voice, calm, cold, saying, look Maria, we just want you to move on. We'll offer $130,000, no guilt. Just sign the deal, no press, no issue, no more calls. The room tense. Jasmine said this was from 2013. The voice was Robert Blaine. Old Trump lawyer Maria kept this for over 10 years. Jasmine paused, let the silence land. She didn't want money, she wanted her daughter to know her past. Trump slammed the table. That's fake, he yelled. That's not. The chairman struck the gavel. Once said, Mr. President, be silent unless asked. Trump sat boiling, his lawyers huddled, panicked eyes scanning exits, eyes scanning press. It was too late. The nation outside already ignited. Hashtags surged. Lucia Trump, Melania DNA, Truth Hill. Major networks cut programming. Social feeds flooded split images of Trump and the daughter he denied. Millions saw, millions reacted, but the room remained still. Jasmine spoke calm, clear. The world knows now every truth, every cover-up, every vanished name. She turned slowly, faced the camera, not with rage, but with truth. Lucia never wanted fame, never wanted news, just to be seen. Then Jasmine let the silence speak once more. The world now knew the hearing wasn't over, but everything outside had already changed. Within moments, bracelet and voicemail trended like fire. Lucia Trump DNA hearing justice for Lucia. Whispers became waves. By noon, every platform overflowed. TikTok clips of Jasmine flipping the photo hit millions within the hour. Slowed clips of Lucia's voice saying, I hope you see me, set to piano, shared by activists, educators, veterans. One tweet read, I voted for him twice, not again. Outside Capitol Hill, crowds grew, first small, then thousands. DC, New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago. Signs lifted like banners, she's not invisible. DNA speaks, we believe. Lucia. Black groups called it a reckoning. Latino groups stood with Jasmine, calling her every child's voice. Immigration coalitions said the hearing marked a turning point in America's conscience. The roads rang with instinct, not scripted, but born from within. Speak her name, Lucia, again and again, in English and Spanish, on live streams, through loudspeakers. The New York Times dropped its alert headline quickly, the Capitol DNA reckoning. CNN declared it. The instant illusion broke. Fox delayed, then displayed the wristband repeatedly. Raw. Even they couldn't look away anymore. Night hosts ditched their jokes and focused on the event. They recited Jasmine's words like gospel. Experts argued if it was scandal, heartbreak, or both, yet nobody doubted its impact in classrooms. Children asked about Lucia. Teachers explained what it means when facts hide in plain view. A fourth-grade class wrote notes to the girl they'd never met, folded and mailed them to Congress. Every part of the nation felt it still somehow. One place carried the weight more than the rest, because back in a small, secure home near San Antonio, the real Lucia sat curled on a sofa, watching it happen. She barely spoke. She just held the stuffed elephant her mother had saved over a decade. She stared at the screen, watched Jasmine's face, saw her own image on the desk, witnessed the nation finally say her name. Her fingers traced the letters on the band they'd removed from her arm, slow, precise, as if remembering meant more than surviving. And in the center of all of it, one small girl still waited to hear her name said aloud. The next morning, Capitol Hill felt altered. The stone halls held more than echoes. Now they held pressure, the kind that comes when silence ends and truth insists on being heard. Inside the oversight room, every seat was filled. Jasmine sat in front, calm. No folder, no envelope this time, just her voice. Her supporters sat beside her, heads bowed, eyes hard. The opposition wore their usual suits, but seemed smaller. The chairman opened the hearing. His voice was calm, but the tension was clear. This wasn't routine, it was a shift. He said, we meet to discuss launching an inquiry into claims of presidential wrongdoing, mainly hiding paternity evidence, mishandling relief money, and blocking justice in the case of a hidden child. Those words cracked like thunder. Instantly resistance rose. This is a witch hunt, one Republican yelled. This is revenge disguised as policy, another added louder. This is a circus, a family attack made to look legal. But their voices were thin, even to themselves. Jasmine stayed silent. She didn't need words, not yet. Her stillness said more than their shouting. The chairman turned to Representative Jaime Raskin. Jaime stood slow, as if unsure the floor could carry his words, his hand steady, but his tone filled with personal weight. I've seen politics twisted, hearings buried facts, but never before a man lied to Congress about his daughter. The room went quiet. Jaime looked at his rivals, then at Jasmine, then at the country watching. This is not politics, he said. This is principle. This is about whether power serves the elite or the vulnerable, if truth is a slogan or something sacred. He paused. My child is gone, and I would trade everything to hear her again. And there is a girl right now, alive in pain, waiting for her father to say her name. A silence followed, deeper than most expected. Then the chairman called the vote. One by one, hands went up, 10 for 6 against 1. Neutral. The motion passed. Jasmine didn't react. Her face held steady, hands still, but behind her someone whispered she did it, and outside the doors a crowd erupted. Social feeds surged again. Streets overflowed before security could respond. Analysts debated, but the people were ahead. The vote happened, but the country had already Decided, and while Congress considered its next move, the public demanded action now. The Capitol lights still glowed, but outside something darker began. Jasmine left the room. Her phone buzzed with threats, some subtle, others direct. No names, no voices. Only fury masked as patriotism. One message played 3 times before her aide stopped it. "She's not yours, but you'll pay like she is." Another said, "Your time ends before this hearing does." The FBI acted quickly. They didn't wait. By dawn, agents guarded her hotel and followed her car. Jasmine remained composed. She had faced danger before, but this felt colder, more intimate, like she had torn away a sacred veil. This wasn't about party anymore. It was about protecting a legacy rooted in silence. Maria Alvarez had no option. The threats doubled. Her photo leaked, her past address spread. Conspiracy sites called her fake. The Justice Department stepped in. She and Lucia were moved to a hidden location. No media, no phones, only quiet or something near it. Lucia didn't scream. She didn't freeze. She packed, hugged the elephant tight, and whispered to her mom, "Miss Jasmine, we'll fix it." That tiny trust, so certain, so pure, broke something open inside Jasmine that she hadn't felt all week. The letter came 2 days after, folded in thirds, hand delivered. No name, no formality, written in purple marker, messy at the corners, but Jasmine recognized it instantly. "Dear Miss Jasmine, Mama says we moved again, but I'm not scared. You're not scared. If you can be brave, I can be too. I think your voice is louder now. Love, Lucia." Jasmine didn't cry immediately. She stared at the note for a while, touched the letters as if sewn from thread, then slowly folded it and placed it between the DNA file and the hospital photo. No headline had ever hit her like that letter. None ever. Would she stayed in her office late that night, reading, thinking, breathing through the fear. There would be one last hearing, one more round of facts, one final decision for a country still undecided. The threats didn't matter anymore. The votes were near. The world was watching again, and this time they weren't just observing. They were standing, rising, waiting. One more hearing, one last breath. One country held still. The alert dropped just after dawn. One line, one fact. No leaks, no guesses, just the official words of a government finally forced to admit. The Oversight Committee will hold emergency hearing, special session. Lucia's truth, everything paused. Broadcasters stopped mid-speech. Phones buzzed in homes and salons. Tags returned like spirits from old feeds in capitals across the world. Journalists rewrote their front pages. At the top of the witness list, one name clear: Jasmine Crockett. Not just a speaker, the lead. This wasn't routine, this was judgment. The event would air live across every network, streamed and analyzed. The subject alone said everything. Truth now visible, now undeniable. Scheduled. Trump's allies acted quick, called it stage slander on social media. They mocked it. One senior aide told Fox, "This is a bad show written by people who hate the flag." Jasmine heard all of it. She stayed calm, stood outside her office before cameras, and said, "If this is theater, then justice owns the spotlight." No yelling, no replies, just strength in her voice and steel in her stance. Inside the Capitol, staff prepared the chamber, cleaned, polished, checked the tech. It was called the most viewed congressional meeting since Watergate. Across America, people canceled plans, diners brought in screens, schools debated whether to show it, churches held gatherings in silence. In Brooklyn, a mural showed Lucia's face beside the words, "She made us look." In Arizona, a woman taped Jasmine's words to a gas pump. "If this is theater, then justice owns the spotlight." Jasmine sat alone in her office, Lucia's letter folded in her pocket, the bracelet in her bag, the report and photo in a plain red file labeled exhibit. As she felt no fear, she was ready. This was never about taking down one man, it was about breaking the silence. And now the silence would break forever. Trump had not spoken directly, not yet, insiders said. He had a prepared statement, no cameras, no questions, only spin. It didn't matter because truth needed no spotlight, only space to be heard. And now it had it. In the back of the chamber, crews set cameras, tested feeds, cleaned, plaques aligned. Everything was ready. The final moment approached. The red light blinked once, then stayed solid. Live from living rooms, schools, phones, hands everywhere. 38 million people watched. Anchors went silent, screens froze, tags trended. Before Jasmine even stepped in, then came the sound of footsteps, firm, clear, ending. Jasmine Crockett entered the hall quietly. She wore a plain dark suit, no notes, just one envelope in her hand. She didn't look at the crowd, the media, the lawmakers, only at the man seated ahead. Donald J. Trump. He didn't rise, he didn't smile, he didn't talk. She sat across from him, upright, steady, not angry, not soft, just sure. The silence hummed. One lens zoomed on her hand, the envelope lay on the wood, pale, unmarked. But all knew it wasn't just paper, it was fact. Trump glanced once, then back to her. Jasmine leaned forward slowly and slid the envelope across it. Moved like fire on dry ground. "This is for the record," she said. The envelope stopped in front of him, untouched, waiting. No one breathed. Trump didn't take it. He looked at his lawyer, who gave a slight shake of his head. The kind that means it's over. Jasmine remained still inside this envelope. She said, "Is final proof, government verified witness. Signed, health department sourced, it confirms hospital date. Birth connection." Her tone didn't tremble, but it struck like a gavel. "You can deny posts. You can deny images. You can deny what a mother says, but not this." She touched the envelope. "Once this was signed by your lawyer in 2013. Trump's face stayed still, but his hands clenched. The cameras saw it. America saw it. No spin required. The truth filled the room. For 10 full seconds nothing moved. Jasmine leaned back, hands together. She had said all she needed. To the envelope sat small, quiet, undeniable. And the man who once commanded the room, the headlines, the country, sat frozen before it. Because what lay inside was not gossip, was not speculation, was not strategy. Inside was the one thing he could not ignore. The envelope remained between them, untouched, unresolved, but the silence it brought had thickened. It was not just the gravity of fact. It was the finality of it. Jasmine did not look at Trump. She did not have to. She already knew. He would not open it, so she did. She slid the flap with one finger. No delay, just a simple silent motion. She withdrew the paper. Inside, white, official, marked in blue ink, a certified birth certificate, issued 3 weeks earlier by a federal court in Texas. She held it up and spoke calmly. "This is Lucia Maria Alvarez's birth certificate, restored, confirmed, filed under seal for her safety, and now submitted into the official record." The room gasped. Flashes exploded. The committee chair leaned forward, and so did the country. Jasmine turned the page toward the cameras. "Father listed Donald John Trump." Her voice remained steady, but it rang out like truth, confirmed by court, verified by DNA, and signed not by opinion, not by protest, but by a judge. She laid the certificate next to the bracelet and the photograph. Trump made no move. His face was rigid, pale, his jaw locked, his hands clenched the edge of the desk, leaving marks. Jasmine did not press. She pulled from her folder something smaller, a school paper, edges bent, words in purple ink found in Lucia's backpack. She said, "A poem." Her voice trembled, not from nerves, but from carrying a child's truth. She read, "One day I will be heard, not by crowds or cameras, just by him. I will be more than silence. I will be seen." The room held breath, as silence that felt like skin crawling, like history unfolding. Trump did not blink, did not speak. Jasmine stood. She did not wait for permission, did not check the clock. She stood with the calm of one who bore what others feared. The room leaned in as Jasmine said what no one else had dared. Then she stood in the middle of history, not as a politician or headline, just as a woman with truth. Her voice remained low. It did not need volume. "This is not revenge," she said. "This is responsibility. This is what America looks like when it remembers itself." The room stayed still, and so did she. She stepped back from the mic. The moment stretched, then the applause started, cautious, then thunderous. A standing ovation filled the chamber, not for drama, not for politics, but for truth. Across from her, Trump turned without a glance, surrounded by agents who looked more like armor. The doors closed behind him with a final metallic sound. That night, across the ocean of noise, Lucia pressed her face to a screen, clutching a worn teddy bear. Her voice cracked. "That's my name." Maria held her without words. 11 years. They had waited not for a verdict, but for recognition. Inside, Jasmine calmly gathered her papers, not with pride, but with weight. She had not ended a career. She had returned a name to a forgotten child. Outside, the nation held its breath, and for once the moment needed no spin. Between applause and outrage, something shifted. Not in politics, but in people. Lucia was no longer a rumor. She was real and seen. A name. Jasmine left into the cool air. A reporter called. Was it worth it? She gave no answer, because history already had, but the fight was not over by morning. The silence was not peace, it was shock. Trump's approval plunged, the sharpest drop since Watergate. Network scrambled, radio turned chaotic, headlines burned with Jasmine's name. Some hailed her, some damned her. Congress filled with subpoenas. Legal inquiries began before breakfast. Crowds gathered, divided, signs raised, chants clashed. The nation watched and fractured. And in the center, Jasmine remained quiet. No interviews, no posts, just her badge, her files, her fire. The noise outside grew like a storm. Hashtags battled like armies. Stand with Jasmine versus impeach her. Now protests flared, pundits clashed, but Jasmine said nothing, because a different story had begun. One centered not on power, but on a child. Lucia's face filled the cover of Time. No edits, no filters, just her eyes, her sealed lips, strength and sorrow. Headline: the name America had to hear. Classrooms asked who she was. Sermons shifted, comedians fell silent. This was not funny. Maria stayed hidden, but her voice traveled. Advocacy groups grew, hotlines rang, donations surged. Jasmine still silent, but the silence roared. A week later, she appeared on the Capitol steps. No speech, no script, just a gaze over the crowd as the wind tugged her coat. A reporter asked, "Do you Regret anything? She paused, nodded once, not sorry, just aware she had shattered a myth. Now the world had to face the truth, and the loudest moment came when she said nothing. 3 days after the storm, Jasmine disappeared. No press, no escort, just a black coat, dark glasses, and a rental car headed south. Only her mother knew Texas was calling her back. Dallas had not changed much. Jasmine had the burden still clung. Headlines faded, arguments swirled, but she searched not for answers, for a girl. They met near sunset at a quiet park. No media, no lights, just footsteps in grass. Lucia waited, legs swinging, holding folded paper. When Jasmine arrived, the girl smiled, not in awe, but in recognition and peace. Jasmine knelt. They did not speak. Lucia touched her necklace and whispered, "Am I American now?" Jasmine's throat tightened. She nodded and said softly, "You always were. They just cannot deny it now." Lucia smiled, older than her years. They sat under blinking street lamps. Jasmine asked about her new home. Lucia said, "There was a dog in a window facing the moon. I do not feel scared anymore. I just feel awake." Then she handed Jasmine the paper. "I wrote something for you." Jasmine unfolded it, a crayon drawing, scribbled names, hearts, a figure in red holding a mic at the top. It said, "Dear Congress, this is my truth. I am not hiding." Jasmine's eyes burned, but no tears fell. "You are brave," she whispered. Lucia shook her head. "No, you just showed me how." Church bells rang. Jasmine looked at the stars for the first time in weeks. She exhaled without fear. She stood, kissed Lucia's forehead, and walked to her car. Behind her, Lucia called out, "Wait, there's one more thing I didn't say." Then came the surprise no one saw coming from the girl herself. It started with a white envelope under Jasmine's office door. No return address, just one name in purple crayon. Lucia. Inside was one sheet, lined paper, creased, smudged, trembling. Jasmine read it alone under a lamp. Her hand covered her mouth. By line 3, by the end, she sat still as if the page breathed. The next morning, she entered the capital letter in pocket. Cameras followed. She said nothing until the podium. She breathed, steadied, and read, "My name is Lucia. I don't want people to yell or fight for me. I want them to listen. Don't fight like me. Fight for someone like me, someone who doesn't know how." The room fell silent. No papers, no coughs, just the echo of a child's truth. The tweet went viral in minutes. CNN aired it in hours. Late night, read it aloud. Hashtag swarmed. Even critics went still. Some blinked, some backed away. The noise paused, and truth had a mic. Jasmine spoke no more that day. The letter spoke later. Her voice returned, gentle, firm. Truth does not always win in one day. Sometimes it waits 11 years, wearing a pink backpack, whispering until someone reads it loud. One image remained, Lucia's drawing on the Capitol wall in purple crayon. 3 words louder than any speech: "I am not hiding." Sometimes truth takes a decade, but when it speaks, it not only reveals, it heals. Lucia's story is not only about a forgotten child, it is about identity and how it begins the moment someone is truly heard. When was the last time you listened to someone the world tried to silence? If Lucia's voice reached you, do not stop here. Like, share, subscribe to Mr. Truth Stories, where silence is broken and light returns. Tap the bell. The next story may not just change a mind, it might restore a name. What part of her story stayed with you? Comment below. Do not just watch history, help carry it. This dramatized story draws from real struggles and real courage. All characters and dialogue are fictional, used for reflection and awareness, not defamation. Thank you for watching. Truth does not end, it waits for someone brave enough to hear it and loud enough to share it. If she could step into the light, maybe we all can.